This is Dr. Brianna Willie, and this is my channel, Business for Nerds. Why did I name the show Business for Nerds? Because I'm a nerd and I enjoy and love sci-fi and video games, reading fantasy. I'm working on a book. I also love to talk about all things business, as I'm learning, I like to collaborate with other business owners. And today I'm meeting with Dan Johnson, and he's going to introduce himself. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you guys for listening. So I'm Dan Johnson. I am a nonprofit sustainability coach. So if you've ever thought about starting a nonprofit, or you're starting a nonprofit, but you're struggling a little bit getting going, I'm your guy.
Okay, very neat. So before we get more into that, as I told you, what do you nerd out with, would you say?
So I am a long-suffering Detroit Lions fan. Back when I was like 10 or 11, I told my dad that I wanted to be a quarterback. That was my thing that I wanted to do. Now, I don't know if you do an audio version of this, but if somebody's listening to this in audio, they can't see. I am skinny AF. There was no chance that I would actually end up being a quarterback. And my dad was like, "You're gonna break something," and said we didn't really allow me to do that. But it's always kind of been in my bones. So I nerd out about everything Detroit Lions football and Motor City Dan Campbell. And I also plan to join a flag football league, and I have been practicing to be a flag football quarterback now for a couple of years.
Oh, neat. So what does that entail, that you're a, super fan or whatnot? What does that mean?
That means I can tell you the last year that the Lions won a national championship, which was 1956.
Oh.
And I can tell you the names of probably 15 of the members of the team. I think my most interesting thing about the Detroit Lions is I really like studying leadership. I really like seeing, particularly because when you do nonprofits, you're doing a lot of leading volunteers. And with volunteers, either you have a good leadership style and they stay, or you have a bad leadership style and they leave. They're not like employees who stay there for the paycheck and then you keep them around besides the fact you suck as a leader. If you suck as a leader, you won't have any volunteers. So I studied two men, Elon Musk and Dan Campbell, both of whom came into struggling enterprises. So Elon Musk came into Twitter, the social network formerly known as Twitter, and Dan Campbell came into the Detroit Lions, who hadn't had the most recent memorable season was 0-16, which is only something a couple teams have managed to pull off. And I wanted to see how did their different leadership styles turn around this organization. And Elon's leadership style is very much he's the guy. He's front forward. He's always in front of the cameras. He is driving you until you drop, and it's a bit top down, a bit authoritarian. And it seems like it works at first, but Dan Campbell's leadership style is the opposite. He, as the coach of the Detroit Lions, he let the players run their own practice in one of the first weeks that he was there. He very much, he believes in his team. He lets his team make their own decisions. He empowers his team. And he takes a very, he doesn't like speaking to the media. He doesn't like being in front of the camera. He doesn't have his own, X or Twitter account. He's not really tweeting. He is just, he believes very deeply in his team, and he steps back and lets them play. And, the Lions, for those who aren't football fans, have gone from being the laughingstock of the NFL to this year they were the team to beat. They went 15-2. Which is incredible. Only the Kansas City Chiefs, who almost won the Super Bowl, went 15-2, and we beat the Chiefs in the regular season. So it just means it's more than just watching, learning about football or whatever, and it's very much watching an entire city that has been beaten to crap over the past 20 years rally behind a guy and watch that team start winning.
Oh, wow. So I like how you drew together the business aspects where he's, working with, I don't know anything about football, but he's, empowering people. They're speaking up for themselves. They're all working together as a team. And this also works in business too. And, it is a business. So I like how you drew that together. Really neat. So, that's a great segue into, telling us maybe more about you and your business. What do you want to tell us?
Yeah, so I think I started Next Level because I realized that there was a lot of nonprofit leaders who didn't understand the business side of nonprofits. I am a 4 times nonprofit founder. I was an impact evaluator. I've raised $3 million for early stage nonprofits. And nonprofit leaders have the most incredible hearts. So, some of your audience are therapists, and a lot of who I work with are mental health professionals. And the reason that business leaders and mental health professionals start a nonprofit is because they see a need usually that their business can't meet. So like I'm also a for-profit owner, as Next Level is a for-profit firm. And when you're doing for-profit work, particularly if you're doing heart-focused for-profit work like therapy, you want to help everyone. And
Mm-hmm.
and you can't afford to help everyone, and they can't afford to help to have your services. So it creates, and they're usually some of the like most interesting and challenging and toughest cases that you want to help. And it creates this real almost like a mini depression around your work, where you thought you were going to go out and help people, but you're only helping people who drive a BMW.
Mm.
And the option that is available for these businesses, and a lot of what I help them with, is you can do that through a nonprofit. If you take a lot of the principles that you use to build your business, so there's some different things you got to do, but if you take a lot of the principles you use to build your business, you can now have a nonprofit attached to that business that serves those clients that your business can't serve. It shows goodwill in the community for you and your company. It allows you to take that extra time and still do the work that you love, but do it in a more structured way for those people who can't afford you. And it allows you to get your name out in the community, as that nonprofit can get you places you can't be. And so a lot of what I tend to do is help business owners, realize that, understand that, and then actually go chase that dream and bring some of the fulfillment back into their business.
Whoa. So it can help therapists if they're solopreneurs, if they're wanting to scale, it might even help them get there because they have another avenue where they can help more people. Wow. Yeah. It sounds like I need to learn a whole lot more about all of this. And also, I was thinking too, it might help with, I talk a lot about compassion fatigue, which I forgot to say in my email. Preventing compassion fatigue is a lot of what I do. And therapists can overextend themselves, like you were
Mm-hmm.
saying, and other helpers too. But I particularly study compassion fatigue in therapists. And it sounds like that could be a potential to kind of help with that.
Oh, absolutely. There's a fantastic author who does science-based self-help research called Adam Grant. And he wrote a fantastic book called Give and Take, which was about people who consider themselves givers and how they match up against other styles in society, including takers and matchers. And one of the things he noted was this compassion fatigue, that if you're a giver, if you're someone who really wants to help people, you just want to help people all the time, everywhere. And if you don't find a way to split that up, then you really do end up with this compassion fatigue. And having a nonprofit and having another organization that primarily serves the people who you want to help but are not good for your business to help allows you to chunk out your giving, which is a really good way to avoid, maybe your research has shown this, is a really good way to avoid compassion fatigue. You get compassion fatigue when you're helping the same person over and over and every month, or the same kind of person over and over again. But if you're able to chunk that, and you're able to go, all right, my nonprofit is taking on, 2 clients, and I have one other therapist who's helping me with that this month. I know I do my nonprofit work for, this 2 hours in a week or this 5 hours in a month or whatever. And you get to look forward to helping those people instead of really wishing you were charging them money that should be going into your company and just being like, well, I wish I could continue to charge them, but I'm doing all of this work and I don't feel like I'm getting fairly compensated for it.
Mm. So speaking of funding, I was just kind of perusing your website a little bit. Well, I saw one of your blog posts about different companies that support nonprofits, and I was amazed at what I was reading, like Canva even, and many others. Could you tell us more about some of those resources that are available or funding opportunities, if you wish?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you start a nonprofit, there's this general idea that it's mission focused, right? And that's why you start a separate entity than your business. Your business operates best when you are going after the profit, because that is what's showing you where you're adding the most value. But your nonprofit is best chasing after a mission or chasing after a vision. And there are a lot of companies who recognize the value of that in our lives and wants to help.
Mm.
Everything from toward the end of the year, the best time, if there's any time throughout the year to start a nonprofit, the best time to start it is in the summer. Why? Because if you start it up in the summer, then you're ready for the fall. And the fall is the biggest fundraising season because that's the end of the tax year. And so if you've got companies, you don't even have to have a particularly strong mission or vision or pitch or, be a good storyteller or whatever. Companies will just hand you money to do this work because they would rather hand it to you than send it over to the federal government. And so you can, if you set it up in the summer and you're ready for the fall, then you can get it to a point where you have other people who want to fund something and just so happen to know you, give you $500, $2,000, $10,000 for your work. And now you can bring on maybe somebody else who helps you with that organization, and you can build that up.
Mm. Now, so going back to compassion fatigue, I had another thought. So often therapists overextend themselves. How would you help a therapist who wants to start a nonprofit too, in addition to their for-profit business, to kind of manage all the delegating, because they're probably going to start with holding it all on their shoulders, how could you help them?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I have a pretty solid rule for starting a nonprofit, which is nonprofits are harder than for-profits. So do
Mhm.
not start a nonprofit while you are aggressively building your for-profit. So like right now, I don't have a nonprofit that I am currently working on. Why? Because I'm actively and aggressively building my consulting firm to help nonprofits. And you can't dedicate the time and energy to a nonprofit while you're building up another business. For profit first, take care of your needs, take care of your revenue. But then when you're in a stable position, then you can look at building out a nonprofit. And what I always recommend with nonprofit work, so I have the 5 levels of sustainability. And this is if you're a brand new nonprofit, your goal is to figure out 2 things: what makes an impact and gets funded. That's
Mm.
your goal. Because if you're a business, you don't need to figure that out. If you're a business, all you need to figure out is what will people pay for. You need to figure out what package, what thing do I offer that people will pay for. You have a 1-phase revenue cycle: sales. If you are
Right.
a nonprofit, you have a 2-phase revenue cycle, which is impact and funding. Because every new person as a nonprofit that you serve is less money for the organization, as opposed to a business, which is every new person you serve is more money to go out and get more people. So it's actually a little
Oh.
bit harder to grow a nonprofit. And so you have to do it a little bit more carefully if you want to grow it and grow your impact. And so if you're in a stable position where you do have a stable business and you're like, I've got all these people, I want to help, I want to do this nonprofit thing, then you walk through the 5 levels, and it's vision. Number 1, you got to have a really good vision. You got to have a really solid team. This is mostly volunteer. So a really solid team. And then you go get some funding, you make some impact, and you go to the media. That is the 5 steps in a nutshell for creating a sustainable nonprofit. If you're able to pull all those off, now you've got the money, you've got the time, and you got the attention that your organization needs. And that's what you need to grow. So to kind of answer your question, it is essential when the role of a founder in a nonprofit is primarily outreach and fundraising. That's what they do. Some program as well at first. You're gonna actually serve these people yourself, but a lot of it is going to be outreach and fundraising because you're the face of it.
Yeah. So if you're growing your private practice, still you're in an aggressive growth phase, probably not the best time to start a nonprofit.
Exactly. Unless you're going to hire somebody else to go off and do it. If this is going to be your baby, then you need to make sure you're taken care of first. But then once you're in that position, you can go out, you can do that. And you build a team. And a little tip I'll give for anybody who's thinking about starting a nonprofit, and it's probably the most controversial tip that I give, but I don't care. So is don't care about your board. Anybody who's ever done any nonprofit work or anybody who's heard of nonprofit work automatically thinks, oh, I need a board. And you build this big, impressive board of people that loves me. Board, that's ridiculous because in a nonprofit, every board member owns exactly as much of the organization as every other board member. And so what you're doing is you're piecemealing out your organization to a bunch of people who do not care anywhere near as much about this as you do. And the board is asked to do way too much. So the quick tip for you, if you're starting a nonprofit, is you're going to have 3 pieces to your team. You're going to have your board of advisors. These are just people who are influential in the community, people who, maybe know nonprofits or people who, know the kind of service that you're offering and are really good at it. Whatever, these people who will give you advice, but they're also your best show that you're legitimate is I've got these people signing off and saying I'm good. Then you have your core team who help you out with, marketing operations, volunteers, and then you have a couple founding donors. Those are the people that you want behind you once you develop your vision of what you're trying to do. That's the team you get together.
That's good advice. Interesting. Hi, my name is Dr. Brianna Willie. I'm a therapist and I run a private practice. I'm diversifying my income with building a coaching business, blogging, podcasting, and course creating. I get to create in my work while building a business I love, and I inspire others to create and build businesses they love too. Are you interested in being more authentic in your business? And do you want to step more into enjoying your work? Do you need help with setting better business boundaries? Do you like to nerd out about something? Or are you interested in growing beyond your current business and diversifying your income streams? Well, check out my podcast and blog for business building tips and strategies on substack.com at Dr. Brianna Willie. What was I going to ask you? Oh, we originally, this complete side tangent, I do this. We originally, I think, connected over neurodivergence. I wanted to ask if you wanted to chat about any of that. Just blanket question.
Yeah. So being ADHD is challenging. I didn't realize how challenging it was until I really got an understanding of what ADHD, like what the signs of ADHD were, because my parents didn't believe it existed. So they were just like, what ADHD? That's not a thing. Like that's just something that they put on you so they could drug you. So I didn't really understand until somebody posted this really stupidly long Twitter thread, like probably 5-6 years ago. It was like about her son's executive dysfunction. It was like 56 tweets long or some nonsense.
Oh.
And I read through it, and it was all about the different things with ADHD, that you lose motivation easily, you are constantly fidgeting all the time, and you can hyper focus, and it's all about your like executive function. I'd never heard of executive function. I was like, what is that? I am the executive. I function. What do you mean executive function? And, and it was a really crazy thing to say, oh, this is a thing and not just my life. And ever since I have accepted or understood that it is a thing, it's completely transformed my ability to be productive and not just talk about being productive. Because if you're ADHD, you can talk about being productive all day long, like talking to
You
people,
might
not hard.
be nerding out about being productive
Right.
and getting nothing done.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
the challenge is actually sitting down and doing it, and all of a sudden you have this loss of motivation, or you have this confusion, or you have this whatever. So I think we connected over. I think I have probably 7 tools that I use at least on a regular basis to help
Ooh,
account for that ADHD. Would you like to hear about
I
them?
would. Yes, please.
Okay. So there's a really old, really stupid to-do list tool called Simpleology. And
Oh.
if for some reason their website still exists, it definitely looks like it was a technology developed before computers had graphics. Uh,
That's great.
it's it's a little rough to use, and like half the features are broken, and their support team is made up of like AI before AI was a thing. So just like annoyed robots.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh. That's great. Oh, I gotta create a meme about that.
so, but one thing they did really well, and I never forgot it, and it really transformed my ability to be productive, was the course required you to get, in order to get access to different features of the software, you had to go through like training modules to use them. And
Oh.
a big part of the training module was you had to actually like create your to-do list for the day, and you had to build up a streak of a certain number of days that you create before you could get access to things like the vision board tool or whatever else they had.
Oh.
And what this did for me was it got me in the habit of, before I start work every day, prioritizing my day just for
Mm.
5 minutes. That's it. Throughout the day, I use a tool called Todoist now, and it's super simple and easy. You just, I have this task, bang, and then you drop it in your inbox and you forget about it. But
Mm.
in the morning before I get started, I look at my Todoist, and do I do it every day? No. But I look at my Todoist a lot of days, and I just prioritize what I'm going to be working on that day. And let me tell you how much like decision fatigue that takes away, and how much easier it is to slide from task to task. I know what I'm doing for that day. And I don't get in the point where I know I have struggled with, and so many other people, which is just like, you finish a task, you're happy about it, and then you're like, oh no, I have other things to do. What do I do? But if I did that, but if I did this, then I don't do this, and then I can't. And you just sit there for like, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna play games on my phone now instead of thinking about this.
Yeah. Overwhelmed. Uh-huh.
So
Totally hear that.
yeah, that was incredibly helpful, and probably one of the best things that I have done for my ADHD.
I love that. Very neat.
So I think the second most helpful thing was actually a book, Atomic Habits, by
Oh,
James Clear.
heard of it.
The most tremendous. I never was able to create a habit before reading that book, like about a year and a half ago. I could get a habit going for like 30 days, 45 days, 10 days, whatever, but never could actually create a habit. And that book changed everything when it was like, when you start a new habit, you have to start it in a way that takes you less than 2 minutes to accomplish. So if your goal is to go to the gym every day, right, which is actually a habit that I have been able to create for the first time. I have done exercising habits for a long time and always failed at them, but I was able to create this exercising habit with the flag football quarterback thing. And I exercise pretty much every single weekday now. And it started out, I kid you not, because first of all, you have to have actual reason for doing it. It's like, if it's not part of your identity, if this is not necessary, it's not going to happen. But I started out, I kid you not, it was so embarrassing because I wouldn't tell anybody about it. But I started out working out for 2 minutes a day. Literally 120 seconds. You know how much you can do in 120 seconds? You could do like 3 push-ups.
That's great.
But I started out just 2 minutes a day and just followed the James Clear model and, would reward myself when I did that 2 minutes, a little check off, a little dopamine hit when I did that. And I would just, since it was 2 minutes, it wasn't all that hard. It was just 120 seconds. I could figure it out. And I just did that every single day as much as I could. And I missed a lot of days. And then I upgraded it to 5 minutes. And then I upgraded it to 10. And now I'm at 15 minutes a day that I am actively working out, and not just like doing a couple sit-ups or like, I swear to you, one time I was so tired because I have 2 kids. I was so tired that I literally did like a finger workout where you like.
Hey, it counts. It counts. I love it.
So I guess the lesson is, make your like habits so ridiculously small you're embarrassed to talk about them, and you might actually create some.
I love that. Self-compassion right there. Got to start somewhere.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. That's a good guideline. I like that. Very cool. So we're on number 2. I think.
Yes. Oh yeah. So let's see. Number 3 is a Google Calendar all day long. Super valuable, super useful. I have 3 reminders set up. I sync my Google Calendars across all of them. So like I'll get like 7 reminders for one event, but it just makes sure I do not miss it, because I will block it out. I will figure out a way. My brain will go, that's not interesting, or whatever. And so I have a reminder set for an hour, 10 minutes, and 3 minutes before, to make sure that I show up on time.
Yeah. Good. I like that. How do you, if you have something, this is actually something I still struggle with, and I do have a lot of systems to help me. But for some of them, if it's not an appointment, like I always make my appointments, but other things like, oh, it's on my list, but I keep like saying ignore, ignore, ignore. Have you figured out how to stop ignoring your reminders?
Yeah, I suppose it's more of, so first of all, I have most notifications off on my phone. Like my email notifications are off. Vast majority of apps notifications are off, because if I get an email while I am doing work, I will flutter off like a little birdie over to the email.
Like, oh, yeah, I need to work on that.
This is more interesting. Oh, a Facebook notification. I have friends. Great.
The struggle is real, as they say.
So I don't know that I've ever really figured out a way to avoid ignoring them, other than having points where you have to do it. Like, I think the 3rd or the 4th tool would be, I have a habit tracker on my phone that is for my morning routine, because I went to the dentist and they were like, you're going to die if you keep treating your teeth like this. They're going to like burrow into your head and kill you.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, okay, I probably need to do something about this so that I either don't have to replace all my teeth and or don't get brain rot. So I have my like daily habit tracker, and God, did it take forever to get like 9 or 10 little things like, take a shower and brush your teeth and floss. And it took months to actually get it down to a point where I could remember it. And what I did until then was I had a little habit tracker that was just for my morning routine. It was separate from my to-do list. It was separate from my calendar. It was just for my morning routine that I could go through and I could check it off and I could check it off and I could check it off. And now I've just realized I don't really use that anymore. I just follow my routine, but it took me probably 5 or 6 months to get to do that. So to answer your question, I still ignore everything. The only way I don't ignore something is I have a routine in place where I have to check that thing. Otherwise, good luck.
It's part muscle memory, probably anchored to other tasks. Like you're using the tools.
Yes.
But they all work together.
Yep. Exactly.
Smart. I like it. I don't know what number we're on now, but any more?
I don't either. See, there's that ADHD. How many numbers?
I think we're on 5. I don't know. I was writing them.
I think it goes without saying that forgiveness is a big part of this. One of the things my business coach is challenging me to do right now, which is really boring as all hell, is actually have consistent like lead follow-up. So, got these people, right? And I'm supposed to go and, by the way, the follow-up king is Jay Malloy. He is fantastic at what he does. But it is forgiveness. I've got this tool called Airtable that I like using because it operates like a spreadsheet, but it's prettier, and I don't like spreadsheets.
Yeah.
They're so ugly. No. And B, it sends automated reminders when something hits a certain date or something like that. So instead of having to check the Airtable, I get 4 emails in my inbox saying follow up with this person, this person, this person, and this person. And that's super helpful, but I'm not always doing it. And I think that there's an element of, did you try, that you have to give yourself sometimes and allow yourself to, just do it again and just do it again and just do it again, and be okay with the fact that you missed a day and be okay with the fact that you weren't perfect, because as long as, I think you just have to have something where I remember with like Airtable, it was open it up. It just needed to go to the tab. Nothing else. Just go to the tab that day and that will count.
It does. Small steps. That's what my coach always says. Small steps. If that's all you got done, okay, you're moving forward.
Exactly. And probably the most recent tool, I don't know if we're on 6 or 7, but here's the last one. The most recent tool that I'm trying, and I find it to actually be really helpful, is I've used for years, I've used a stoplight spreadsheet for volunteers. So with volunteers, you always need to have a volunteer working on a task, or they will get bored and leave. And you need to contact them, and somebody needs to be talking to them at least once a week. And so I had a stoplight tool that was like green, yellow, red. Green, the volunteer is working on something and they've been contacted, in the past week and responded. Yellow, one of those 2 things is out of whack. And red is we've tried to reach them and they've really not responded at all. And so this is a way you could make sure to keep in touch with your volunteers. And I am doing something that I don't recommend anybody really do, which is build a business while you have 2 children under 4. Like, what? No, just go get a dead end job for a while you have your kids. But I chose this path for some reason. And so I've got a fractional, I'm working as a fractional fundraising director for a food rescue nonprofit, and I've got my business, and I've got, my family, and it's just a lot to manage. And so I developed this tool that is a stoplight tool that's like a check-in. So at the end of the day, I have green, yellow, red on each of my like 6 areas. And I know either whether I need to work late that day in order to keep up, or, I set things for myself that were too hard based on how I'm doing on those green, yellow, red. So I've got like, my leads. Have I kept up with my leads? Green, yellow, red. Have I, kept up with my individual fundraising? Green, yellow, red. Have I kept up with managing the program? Green, yellow, red. Like, I've got my major areas chunked out into the green, yellow, reds. And if I don't update it all the time, when I get to the end of the day and I feel like I need to do more, I need to do more, I need to do more, I go to that stoplight and I just update it green, yellow, red. And green is I don't need to do any. I'm not behind on anything today, right? There might be things need to be done, but they're tomorrow or the day after, whatever. Yellow is I am behind on something, but I'm behind it in the past week. And then red is I'm behind on it and it's needed for a couple weeks ago. I can go there and then I can safely relax when I see that thing, or I can know I need to work for another 2 hours on these 2 areas tonight so that I can catch up. And it just allows me to not hate myself for being done, and to not relax when I'm totally missing something that I really badly need to do.
I love that. Wow. And you use Airtable for that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'll have
It's
to look
just
into that.
stupid
Mhm.
simple. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, I think the people that listen are definitely going to enjoy that, because not only does it help people who run neurodivergent, I think it helps all people, because a lot of these, I think we all struggle with prioritizing our list and organizing. So those are so helpful and fun and colorful. So win, win, win.
True.
Yeah. Now, going back to your business and how you coach and help others, is there anything else you wanted to tell us about that?
Yeah, I think I just thank everyone for listening in to the show that we had together. It was kind of fun meeting you on Facebook. And as a thank you, there is a sustainability roadmap. So the 5 levels I talked about in a little bit more detail if somebody's thinking about starting a nonprofit and they want to know what are the things I need to do in order to make this work. There's a sustainability roadmap. It's the 5 steps to sustainability. It's on the front page of my website at nextlevelnonprofits.us. If you're listening to the show and you go to download that and you put in the reference, you put in that you were listening to Business for Nerds, then I will actually do a analysis of your nonprofit or your nonprofit idea and tell you where you're at on that roadmap. So
Oh my
that is something I
goodness.
offer.
Thank you so much. That's so kind, so giving. I love that. So cool. So everyone check that out. Oh my goodness, that's fabulous. You already provided your website. Is there any other ways you would like people to contact you or reach out to you?
No, primarily it's the website, Next Level Nonprofits. I'm also on all the social medias, usually as Nonprofit Mentor, TikTok and X, and all of them. And I'm probably most active because I am a millennial and not a Gen Zer. I am probably most active on the Facebook.
Uh-huh. Same.
So you can find me and my stuck up blue check on Facebook. Just look for Daniel Johnson and look for the only one that has a blue check, and that's me.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Great. So thank you everyone for listening. Check out all these awesome tips and strategies on managing neurodivergence, and we'll check in soon. Thank you.
Thank you.